Welcome to the Women of Distance podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Kramer. These are the stories of motivated women chasing big dreams in the distance running world. You'll hear from women who are crushing it on the trails, the track, and the road. These are not just the stories of women's results at the top of the sport, but the full story of how she got there, the challenges, failures, successes, lessons, and life between the miles. Women of Distance is proudly supported by Open Fuel, responsible sports nutrition to fuel your adventure. Check out their products and their mission at openfuel.co and use code WOD for 20% off your first and every order. You can also visit the Women of Distance Substack to read more behind the scenes happenings, including how I'm using Open Fuel in my own training. Women of Distance is also supported by our good friends and fellow trail runners at Summit Roasters. Roasted fresh in my hometown, you can support the podcast by visiting summit-roasters.com and using code WOD15 for 15% off every order. You can find all of these links and codes in the show notes, and know that we really appreciate you supporting those supporting us. Without further ado, I hope you enjoy. Thanks for listening. Okay, I am hanging out with Heather Jackson today. Really excited for the conversation that we're going to have. Heather, how are you? Thanks for being here.
Hey Lauren, thank you so much for having me on. It's always great to catch up and chat with you.
Yeah, we have a bad habit of talking for a while before we hit record. So hitting record now for real and starting this conversation from a proper starting point. I typically start this podcast by introducing my guests by recent results and athletic achievements, and I certainly don't want to skip over that. You are a highly accomplished, highly experienced athlete all the way back, and we'll even go back prior to this, but D1 ice hockey player and Olympic hopeful hockey player, I do believe. 15 years in triathlon at the very top of the sport, Ironman champion, world champion podiums, transitioned into trail and ultra running as well as gravel cycling. You have worn so many hats in your athletic career, and I'm sure we could even talk about more outside of performance hats that you have worn. I want to start this in a little bit of a different place, though, because our conversation is going to be about your life and your athletic career. But there's also part of the reason I reached out was, have you ever read the book or heard of the book Falling Upward?
I haven't, but I am a big reader,
Okay.
so I'm always looking for book recommendations.
Well, I'm going to recommend it to you. It's a great book. Falling Upward, again, is the title of it. And it talks about like the different emotional maturity phases of life and like the progression of how you mature and progress across life, to summarize it in a very brief, awkward way. But what it talks about is that like the first half of your life is really spent building your identity and cultivating success and creating structure, sort of figuring out your place in the world and establishing yourself in that place that you want to be in the world. And then the second half of life, if you have the emotional maturity to progress this way in your life, is that the second half is about sort of letting go of your ego and growing from experiences rather than just seeking success. And I think along with that, a lot of mentoring, sharing, giving back to, you have established yourself, you have reached this point of your life, point of your career, point in your relationships that you then start to give back and evolve. And success is certainly still part of that mission, but you also start to sort of seek experience more so than result, if that makes sense. I think you and I are the same age, and I think maybe in a similar phase that is sort of somewhere in between those two phases of really still wanting to achieve and desiring success and wanting to grow, and also starting to cross over into that giving back and sharing and mentoring and wanting to bring others along with you and up with you. That's a very long introduction, but that's sort of the topic that I want to eventually work our way toward. It seems outwardly that you are very much in that place as well, and maybe have been realizing that inwardly before you started sharing outwardly. But okay,
Yeah, I
that
mean, I
was a long
think
start.
No, that is literally spot on, and just every sentence out of your mouth just then, I'm just nodding, like, in agreement with of just yeah, I definitely need to find that book. But, yeah,
It's really good.
definitely, I feel completely in that phase and, excited to kind of explore it today. I think it's definitely a work in progress for me of
Mhm,
exactly what you're saying. It's that confusing I do feel like I'm at this kind of shift of where I'm at. I guess probably mostly mentally than anything of
mhm.
um yeah, in my career, my career has been athletic. So with aging comes shifts and definitely, yeah, what that looks like, what are goals, what are yeah, what's possible, and the mindset shift of how I am approaching those new goals as an aging athlete. And then on top of that, with kind of my athletic trajectory, it's been within new kind of athletic pursuits, if you will. So it's been kind of this 2 or 3 year phase, I would say, really, of just trying to understand where I'm at, what I want to still accomplish, what accomplishment even means or success even means these days for me has definitely shifted from say 15 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm really excited to get to that, but we have to, in order to get to that, we really do have to talk through your whole story. And I think a lot of people have heard pieces and snippets of your story along the way. I would really love to dig into the full depth of it, though, and how you got here, how you got to where you are today. So, if we're starting there, let's go all the way back. I mentioned ice hockey, but talk a little bit about what was your first exposure to athletics. Where did athletics first enter your life in any form?
Yeah, I think athletics was literally there from birth almost, I would say. I mean, honestly, I have photos of myself like skating on the local pond when I was could barely walk. I was probably 1 or 2. Just yeah, I grew up in New Hampshire, and my parents were pretty athletic. My mom was a phys ed teacher, so at one of the local schools, and she just not only was she a teacher, she was all the other extracurricular things that came with being a PE teacher, umpire, reffing, coaching. And so I was one of 4 kids, and we were all 1, 2, 3, 4, so all within about a year of each
Uh-huh.
other. And so part of, I guess, babysitting or what she did with the children after school was we were like with her at all the athletic events, or if she was coaching or on some of the teams, or we were dropped at practice for our sports while she still did her things. And so I think just, yeah, they expose my parents, who I give full just gratitude and credit towards. Like, they gave us so many opportunities in the sense of just letting us try everything. I did ice hockey, soccer, gymnastics, tennis, basketball, softball, lacrosse. Like, I did all the sports except, I always say this, except swimming. So that would come back later. My grandparents had a pool. They lived down the street from us, so we knew how to swim. But I never was a swimmer in the sense of laps and learning stroke technique. So um, that was the one thing I would say we didn't do. But otherwise, yeah, I was exposed to athletics from 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old. Always super athletic, um, and just I would say through junior high, in middle school, junior high, into high school, the two sports that really came into focus for me were both soccer and ice hockey. And
Mm.
so it was one of those, I was, yeah, on 2 or 3 different travel teams for both of the sports. My parents driving me to all sorts of practices. Um, and it really came down to, yeah, those two. Sorry.
They're fine. Anyone listening, if you
My
hear
puppies are super.
occasional the puppies in the background, that'll just be part of our episode.
Okay. Listeners, my 2 puppies are, of course, choosing the one
If you
room to
watch on
zoom me in.
YouTube, you can see them too.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry. Okay.
Anyway,
So
soccer and ice hockey
soccer and
in
ice
high
hockey
school.
in high school, and yeah, at the time it really just came down to, not came down to, but I was making the decision of to play which sport to play in college, and at the time, women's ice hockey. Largely, the schools that had women's ice hockey programs were Ivy League schools, a couple other New England bigger universities like Boston College, Boston University, and then a couple of the Midwestern schools. But it was still very small women's ice hockey. So for me, it was this opportunity for this to go and get an education at kind of a higher level through being recruited for ice hockey. So I ended up going in that direction. And um, actually, my freshman year, I thought, oh, maybe I can still play soccer. And I actually went to like the walk on tryouts. But having been recruited for ice hockey, my hockey coach, who I also largely went where I went to school because of him, he was one of the best coaches I've ever had, always will be. He was like, it's a little much. Like, we need you at preseason, like on the rink, doing all the other stuff. So, anyways, college, it kind of narrowed down to just ice hockey. And um, yeah, that was my focus for the next uh, 4 years. It was leading into the 2006 Winter Games, which became kind of the ultimate goal on top of just playing collegiately at the highest level at the time.
So, expand on this a little bit. I really appreciate hearing you saying that hockey was a path to really getting an education that like opened some opportunities, opened doors. Where did you go to school and what did you study in addition to playing? Obviously, hockey
I
being a big focus, but not the sole focus.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I ended up going to Princeton University, and I always say it like I try to own it more now and be like, yeah, I went to Princeton, but I always say it with this little asterisk of like, I got in because of ice hockey, and it's always been kind of this like imposter syndrome of like I went there, but yeah, I went there for hockey, but it's like, okay, no, I did partly choose that because it was this chance to go to such an incredible like place for school that that was partly the decision. And it was um I ended up studying, I think we'll talk about this later, but just this, I didn't know what I wanted to study. I was all over the map. My freshman year, I don't know how many classes I changed around. And it was one of those just like not knowing who I was or what I wanted to do or what I wanted to study, but I wanted to do it all. It's always been this like, oh, I want to try that, or I want to learn this. And so, yeah, that freshman year, I was all over the map. I ended up focusing in on, I was a poli sci major with a minor in East Asian studies. So
Okay.
a little bit random, but I had been studying Japanese actually in junior high and high school, and that was just random to be studying that. My junior high was overcrowded, and so they had chosen like 40 or 50 students that needed to go to school up at the local high school instead of the junior high, and they made us choose from some of the classes that the other high school students didn't want. So most of the high school students were taking French and Spanish, so we were able to choose from either Chinese or Japanese. So it was just random. I started studying Japanese, but then I continued it into high school and then continued it in college. And so I got that East Asian Studies kind of certificate,
Okay.
minor certificate.
That's very cool. That's very cool. Talk a little bit about what you've both between ice hockey and Ivy League education. Both of these require a level of dedication. And I think you can asterisk that you went to Princeton for ice hockey, but you went to Princeton and you studied at Princeton, and that takes an amount of discipline, an amount of investment. Maybe elaborate on what sort of things you were learning about yourself through both of those avenues and discovering about yourself along the way at that time.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing just being a student athlete at like a university like that, it is that time management, that discipline, that like figuring out what works for you. And in terms of like we had to schedule our classes. You had to pick certain classes that fit in with our training program, and so our practices started
Mhm.
every day at like 1. So we had to schedule classes that were from like the 8 a.m. to noon time frame, and then we would have time to grab a quick lunch, and then we had to be at the rink from 1 o'clock. I think we would do like warm up, stretching. Practices started at like 1:30 or 2. We were on the ice till about 5. 3 days a week, we went straight from the rink to the weight room. We had to lift 5 to 6. Then we had time for dinner, and then just they used to have for athletes like study hall after like mandatory study period. I think it was from like 7 to 9 or something, and then back to your dorm, sleep, do it all again. So you had to figure out like when worked for you to get your studying in, to get your writing papers, like. And so for me, it was this, okay, my brain didn't, despite having that study hall post dinner, I could never study then. My brain just would be so exhausted. Like I would barely
Hmm.
get much done. So I found I had to get up at 5 a.m. I used to go to the same coffee shop every morning. I think it opened at like 5 or 5:15. I would be there. I would have to do my studying from 5:30 to like 7:30 every morning. Then straight to my first 8 a.m. class. And just, I think it just teaches you like learning what works for you, sticking to a schedule, kind of that discipline, that like putting certain priorities first, like my schooling and ice hockey. Like, how can I, yeah, try to maximize both, with like big requirements on both sides, I guess.
Hmm.
So it's funny because I can reflect now on all of this, but at the time you don't know, what you don't realize that that's part of what you're learning or part of what you're ingraining in yourself or part of what's going on. I think it just became like, this is what I need to do to get my work done and pass and get good grades and be able to be at the rink and play hard and do all the things. But in the moment, you're just, yeah, almost in survival mode.
Hey, folks, quick interruption to make sure to say thank you to Open Fuel for supporting the Women of Distance podcast. Open Fuel is responsible sports nutrition to fuel your adventure. Check them out at openfuel.co. Right now, I'm loving their Ultra Fuel drink mix with 60 grams of carbs and 500 milligrams of sodium all in one serving. Soon, they'll also be adding a gel mix to their product lineup. Again, check them out at openfuel.co and use code WOD to get 20% off your order every time and support the podcast at the same time. Find the link and the code in the show notes. There was this, probably around that time, there was this NCAA ad that was, I think it was on TV. I feel the internet was young, so I don't think it was on the internet. um, but it was about the emphasis on the student part of student athlete, and that like most people who are collegiate student athletes go pro in something other than athletics, and sort of emphasized that like I said, the student part of being a student athlete. Do you feel like in your experience that maybe it was the athlete part that was emphasized as just the level of sport that you were at that time?
That was probably a higher priority in my life.
Yeah. Or not
Yeah,
even just for you, but the expectation on you.
Yeah, I think both. Just the expectation
Both.
as a student athlete, going there to play, having been recruited, just, yeah, having our team built each year. To my senior year, we were the best and have continued to hold one of the best records Princeton ever had. We made it to the Frozen Four for the first time ever. And I think it was just this like building momentum of the team we had. And like, that was my full focus. And I always think back on that and think, I wish I could have gone to Princeton like 5 years later, where could have really capitalized on all the other aspects of the school side of it, because I
Mhm.
did, like, I studied hard and but I just think there were so many more things I could have taken advantage of. But my focus was hockey. My focus was on
Mhm.
like, yeah, just our performance as a team. Like I was all in, and it was one of the best chapters of my life. My teammates, my coaches, what I learned there, just the focus on that. But that it did, I would say, dominate over, say, the dual student athlete part.
Yeah, yeah. Well, talk a little bit about where and when you first understood or realized that there was an Olympic development opportunity here beyond collegiate hockey. Where did that opportunity either present itself or begin to enter your mind?
Yeah, I think, Well, in high school, I had been invited a couple summers to Lake Placid, New York, which is where the Olympic Training Center is that ice hockey programs use. And it was more of a junior team. I made the under 18 national team. I think it was my senior year in high school. And so I had been introduced to kind of that pipeline. And it would be these summer festivals, and they would invite out, I think, like 40 or 50 players. And it was kind of just like a talent ID training camp, I would say. And then we would play Canada. It was really just Canada and US for women's hockey at the time. Now there's many more programs, and we would play like high school boys programs just as like someone to compete against. So I had been in that pipeline. And then in college, as it kind of headed into the next Winter Olympics, that was the 2006 games in Torino, in Italy. It became much more like, I think, more purposeful with that Olympic program of who they invited each summer to specific camps, because obviously ice hockey is a team program. And so part of it is about putting together lines that work well together. And they're pulling women from all the different collegiate programs. Because again, at the time, that was the only place women were playing ice hockey in college. So
Mhm.
they were pairing together all these different, I was a right wing, so forward, all these different lines, trying out all these different combinations, all in the lead up into Torino. So each summer I would spend, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks up in Lake Placid, New York at these summer festivals where they were trying to place the best teams together, or best lines, best combos, just watching all the different players. So I think it had been there since high school, that pipeline, but I think um, as it got closer and meeting Torino, the Olympic Games, and like being there each summer became like, okay, maybe this could be a possibility.
So where did that possibility ultimately take you? Where did it lead coming into that Olympic year?
So coming into the Olympic year, yeah, it's interesting. And this is also another thing that I always draw back on, maybe less so now, but I did my entire triathlon career, which is funny because it led me to, they basically, in the summer of 2005, so Olympic Games would have been the next February 2006. 2005, they basically held the final, I guess, Talent ID festival up in Lake Placid. And it was definitely more intense than the past summers. And it was you could tell they were basically trying to suss out what line combos they wanted to put together, the team they were going to pick. And I think there was a big camp early in the summer, and then they narrowed that down to like, I think 35 or 40 women. And I was invited to that. And then they basically named a team of, I think, 27 women, leading into the final months. And they had to whittle that down to, I think you were only allowed to bring maybe 22 women in the
Mm.
final team. But I didn't make that the camp of 27, where they basically had named out lines and the D combos and then the three goalies they were bringing. So I didn't make that final cut. And it was one of those, like, it was just, I think I look back from triathlon now, and the focus I had in triathlon, and the like, just desire to be the absolute best I could be. And I think that came from not making that team that summer in
Mm.
hockey, because I think back and I'm like, did I do everything I could have to make that final team? Like, and I don't know that I can say that I did, but I don't think at the time I knew, this probably isn't making sense, but like, I was just there. I was in the program. I was in the pipeline. I was doing what I could, but like, was I doing all the extra things? Was I doing extra practices? Was I working on my stick handling skills night and day, like beyond the rank, like all the little things that I then started doing in triathlon, because I was just so, like, I didn't make it. And after not making that team in the summer of 2005 into the '06 games, that was also coincided with my senior year of college. So I graduated in '06. And after that, at the time, there was nothing else in terms of women's ice hockey. There was no like minor league teams. There were no other pro leagues. It was just, that was it. So I had spent 22 years focused on this one sport, this goal, this it consumed me. And then I graduated college and there was nothing. It was just
Hmm.
done. Like you didn't keep
Hmm.
playing at the time. Now you do. You can as a female continue, but it was just this weird, yeah, period in my life of okay, I didn't make it and now what?
I can really understand and appreciate the stories you might have been telling yourself at that time. And even in hindsight, like you had said, you were all in on this and feeling like you were doing all of the right things, but maybe not until you're outside of it, seeing more things that you could have been doing or things you could have been doing differently, or but that's so easy when you're outside of it, when you're on the other side of it. And yeah, I
Exactly.
can appreciate that. Talk a little bit about then that sort of that summer and that year of figuring out what you're going to do with yourself when this path that you had invested so much in ended.
Yeah.
What's next, right?
Exactly. Well, it is kind of crazy, like exactly like you just said, like you can see so many things after they happen and reflect on them and like, okay, maybe if I had done this or that, like that could have changed the outcome of things. But in the moment, you just don't see it when you're in it. But I went home to New Hampshire, and my parents were actually going to this local triathlon. I had never done triathlon. I had ridden, like, we would ride bike trainers in the rink before, like, as a warm up. So I've done a ton of like biking on, say, like a Peloton type bike. But again, I didn't grow up swimming either. But my parents were going to this local tri in New Hampshire. It was at one of the ski mountains, and I was like, "Oh, I'll come along. I got nothing else to do. I was just at home." And yeah, that was my first triathlon. And so I had spent 20 years playing ice hockey and then also soccer, team sports, and all of a sudden I try my first kind of individual athletic pursuit. And yeah, so when people say, "How did you get into triathlon?" It's so funny because I just kind of like stumbled on it. It wasn't,
Yeah.
I hadn't seen it and was like, "Oh, I want to try this." It was, my parents were going, I was at home. I don't even know if I knew what it was, like technically was. And it was just this like, and it wasn't even a traditional triathlon. We mountain biked 10 miles to this lake that was at the base of a ski hill. You swam across the lake and then you ran up the ski hill. So
Dang.
it wasn't
So
even the
you were
right
a trail
order.
runner right away.
I know, actually, now that I think of that. Yeah,
It's
but
funny.
I was
It's
hooked.
interesting to hear you say that, like, you didn't really have an intention here, but I can imagine, being a forward in ice hockey. Anyone who's ever watched an ice hockey match knows, like, that is an endurance sport. I appreciate it's also a power sport and a hand-eye coordination, but, like, obviously it's an endurance sport for sure. You go, go, go in that sport in that position. So I can imagine how that translated so well for you, especially with cycling and running. Like your leg strength was there and your leg stamina was there. Talk about swimming the first time. You said like you knew how to swim, but you were not a swimmer. How did you make it across the lake?
Yeah, exactly. No, thank you. I appreciate that. It's so true. The leg strength and just the constant VO2 bursts from the ice, from skating. Like you're on the ice for a minute, maybe 2 minutes, like quick shifts. It's just all out for 2 minutes, and yeah, the power from the skating, but the swim, like that does not translate because my legs, like I'm not that tall. I'm 5'4", I'm pretty short. And I, yeah, like people are always like surprised at how like strong, like at the time when I was playing ice hockey, I probably weighed 145, 150. Like I was pure solid muscle. My legs were also double the size they are now, but we were in the weight room 3 times a week. So
Mhm.
I share that just because like dense muscle sinks in the water. And so my legs, like no matter how many swim lessons I had, like I cannot keep my legs up. Like I have to kick so hard just to get like, yeah, the legs above. sinking basically. So, but on that first one, yeah, I think I just breaststroked or doggy paddled across. It was short enough that like you could get it done, but
That's really funny. I can imagine too, like in triathlon, swimming is typically the sport that you sort or the discipline that you get to rest your legs a little bit because they're about to work hard the rest of the day. So a lot of people have sort of a slower, lopey type kick and really power from their upper body. So I can imagine how this is just an extra challenge for you. Talk a little bit about like how well, let's come back to that first triathlon. Like, what did you love about it that drew you in from that point? And then I want to hear about how you learned to swim.
yeah. Yeah, no, so true. I think on the first one, I think the first thing that just I was hooked. Immediately I got to the finish line at the top of the ski hill, I was like, "Oh my gosh," like all the things I could have done better of just if I had done this, like I could have gone so much faster. And it was that like I'm sure it's that addictive personality that a lot of, type A athletes have, but it was just the immediate, I could have gone so much better and in wanting to do it again. And that would become such a like pattern in my athletic career of like, I need to do that one again because I know I can do it better. And so it literally hooked me immediately of just all the things. It gave me a new focus. Um, from ice hockey of just like ice hockey was okay, these are the skills I need to learn, stick handling, like movement, skating better, skating stronger, reading plays. It was also very much a team sport, like working with your teammates, whether you click on the day or not determined a lot about how a game would go. And now all of a sudden I was in an individual sport and everything was just on me. It was my how I did on the day, that was the result. And it was like I could just take all of that onto my own shoulders. Like, okay, if I learned to swim, I could get across that lake quicker. If I did this on the bike, I could go so much faster. And it was this, yeah, just, I think I was drawn to that ability to just, it was all on me to see what I could do.
Yeah, that was about to be my question is did you enjoy that level of autonomy, not having it be a team sport, having it be individual? Sounds like a big yes. It's a good
Yeah, I
transition for
definitely
you at
did.
that
I
time.
think, yeah, I think at the time, just coming off of yeah, 20 years of team sport, it was this new thing. So it was a new, like, wow, this is crazy. Like, it's not about if I'm connecting with my center and left wing on the game today. It's like, nope, I didn't feel great running up the hill. That's on me. My legs were burning. How can I improve that? How can I get better at that?
Is there anybody in your life that was an example for you of this sort of I'm struggling to find the right words, but you are obviously very dedicated and invested in learning something new and mastering that craft or that skill or that sport. Um, is there anybody in your life who was sort of an example of what that was for you? Or do you feel like you cultivated that for yourself along this trajectory through soccer, sport, ice hockey, and onward?
That's a good question. I think I would say my parents are just like have always been kind of the guiding light in the sense that I had I think, addictive personality. I think I was just born with that, or like maybe not addictive, but like competitive drive. Like I had to always try to be the best, try to win, but then like that addictive personality to like get better at one thing and the ability to focus in on it. But like my parents were always, if I was maybe veering off um, of what it took to get to that next level or take that next step, like they were always there kind of reminding me. Like I think of one example sticks out in my mind. I was still playing ice hockey. It wasn't triathlon, but um, it was my travel team. And I was in high school and one of our friends was taking myself and three of our other best friends on this ski trip over spring break. It was like kind of a gift her parents were giving her to bring her and her friends skiing. And like we didn't have a lot of money. The other family was paying for it. It was like this big luxury. Like, oh my gosh, I think I'd only gone skiing in New Hampshire around us. Like it was out in Colorado. And but my travel team, we were in a tournament and we kept making it to the next round. And like we made it to the finals. And but the finals were the day that we were all going to fly to Colorado, the four of our best friends, to go skiing.
Mm.
And I was like, I've never, like, I don't think I'd even been on a plane. And I could not like wait for this like trip with my friends. And I was thinking I would still go on it. And my mom was like, you can't abandon your hockey team. Like, you can't just leave them for the finals because you have a ski trip with your girlfriends. Like, and she made me realize, like, yeah, I knew in my gut I didn't want to, but I also didn't want to like not go with my friend. Like, it was this tough time because you're young too. I was probably, I don't know, 16, 17. But like just kind of driving home that like idea of commitment and like, yeah, not a, you can't abandon your team, like your teammates, just like, okay, sorry, I'm not going to be there at the finals. Like,
Mhm.
just little things like that, little messages throughout kind of my childhood, growing up, high school, college, just of like, okay, what is your focus? What is important? What decisions will you make that show what sort of teammate you are? Or, so I think, yeah, to all like, my parents were very like, taught us right and wrong, like good morals, like character, like showing who you are by the decisions you make and the actions you make. And so I always credit them with like that upbringing. Like they were parents. Like I don't know. I just see parent like just generations are different, and I'm grateful for the generation I grew up in and having those parents that made lessons clear and like made your decision making like right and wrong, and laying those out for me. So
It sounds like sport then really kind of emphasized those lessons that were already being taught and being reinforced at home. I think very similar character traits and characteristics come up in sport, in competition as well. Um, Coming back to triathlon, when do you feel like you realized that you had something here? Like, not just that this was cool and you had to figure it out and work all the problems, but that like you actually had a talent and a gift for this?
yeah, I think I don't know that it ever like sunk in that I did necessarily. I did the first one, and then that was heading into my senior year of college. Did my senior year. Hockey, I'm sorry. Hockey was over. I got a job teaching out in the Bay Area, like San Jose area. So I moved cross country that next summer, drove out with my sister, and started teaching. But I had become just, yeah, obsessed with triathlon. I found all the local tri clubs, training groups, the training rides, and started right in with my training out there as an age grouper. I was in the 18 to 24 age group. And it was on a local group ride that I met my now husband, Waddy. And so, yeah, I always credit him with just saying to me, like, you know, that you could give this a real go. Like, we met on a ride, and he was like, I've never ridden with a female of your caliber, like how strong you are, and you don't even realize it. So he has always been, I would say, the person that just, he believes in me more than I do in myself. He's just the constant, just like, yeah, every time I'm just like, you're so biased, of course, like you don't have to say this. And but he's the one that I would say kind of just uplifted me and made me think, oh, maybe I could. And he was like, quit your teaching job. I only ended up teaching a year or two, and he was like, quit your teaching job, you need to give this a go, you can always go back to teaching, you can always get a job, like. And yeah, I mean, I feel grateful because that opportunity was only there because of him and how he wanted to help me. I moved down to San Diego to be with him, like I was living with him. So all these other things that make that a very tough choice for most people. Like I will forever be in debt to him for that opportunity he gave me by I quit my job and gave it a go. But I would say it was him that maybe made me see it. I still didn't at the time. This would have been 2009. 2008, 2009. So a year or two after college. And it was this cool, like, I guess so, but I still didn't believe it necessarily.
So, when did this start to develop into an actual professional avenue for you? Maybe elaborate a little bit on what that process looks like in triathlon, because it is a little bit of a like an actual process, and then how that changed things for you when it did become a professional endeavor.
Yeah, it's definitely a process. I think you race, and I was racing as an age grouper still. But I had um well, that would have been 2009 actually. The start of 2009, I raced as an age grouper, like March, April, May timeframe, and got some results as an age grouper compared to the professional women's field. So I was still an age grouper, but I was getting fifth or sixth at some of these events. And that allows you to get your pro card if you place within a certain time to the front lady or results. I forget the entire process, but I was able to get my pro card at the end of that year. So that was 2009. And so basically, you just race and try to get results to show possible potential. Again, I'm in debt to Wadi because he worked in the industry. He was head of global ad sales for Triathlete magazine at the time. So his job was selling ads to all the big companies, all the bike companies, all the shoe deals. And so he kind of had his like, he knew the industry in terms of like, oh, this brand is looking for like a young up and coming female. And so he would like kind of gently pitch to some of his clients like, oh, are you looking for a an up and comer, like she's just kind of getting into it, but toss her some shoes and she'll wear them. Like, so he started kind of getting me, like, he got me a bike that first year to ride through one of the local bike shops. So kind of started covering like expenses like that in terms of equipment, because triathlon, it's a crazy expensive sport when
Hmm.
you think of all the things you need. But like bikes,
Especially at that age.
yeah, I was 23. Just I had no money. It was just I had a credit card and yeah, just eh, yeah, she all the little things. So he helped me that way. But then the next year was the first year of at the time it was the first kind of I guess, team in triathlon. It was the Trek K Swiss team. And he begged them to put me on that team in terms of like, just give her a shot. Again, I had some like a couple of results, but nothing noteworthy, but like enough to show. I think I had gone in 2000, the fall, right after I got my pro card. And I got, I think, a third place at a 70.3, which is a half Ironman, and then a second place before the season kind of closed out. So I had a third and a second, and they were like, "It's her second year racing, just give her a shot." And they ended up putting me on that team, and I think that was kind of my first breakthrough of. I was put on this team with at the time all the top stars: Julie Dibbins, Chris Lieto, and kind of gave me a little bit of just, I guess, just being on the team and surrounded by those athletes like helped.
Did you, by that point, or maybe around that point, start to develop that confidence in yourself that you belong here or you have something here that you're building into?
um, I think it made me. I think getting put on that team's kind of getting momentum. I don't. Confidence is such a tricky one for me. I feel like I've never had like really strong confidence of my place in say triathlon or gravel or trail or whatever it is. Like it's I still always just doubt being there, I would say. So I don't know that at the time I was like, okay, now we're good to go. It was more, I'm given this opportunity and I don't want to let them down. I don't want to let the sponsors down. I don't want to let Wadi down for putting his neck out for me. And it just made me work as hard as I could in terms of training to try to prove myself because I was given this shot. So I think it gave me that work ethic of just okay, they're giving you this chance, like don't let them down. And I put
Mhm.
everything into trying to do that.
This maybe segues interestingly then hearing you talk about maybe not necessarily having that confidence, but instead having the need to the desire to prove yourself. When I think of you, I think of hard work. Like those two, Heather Jackson and hard work go hand in hand. And a big reason that I have that impression is because of your YouTube. I have watched you put in so much hard work on the screen and be so willing to put yourself out there and show what you're doing and show what it actually looks like to work hard. And especially as a female, I really love to see that, what real hard work looks like. I can't tell you how many treadmill workouts I have crushed while watching a Heather Jackson
Oh,
YouTube because you are working hard, I can work hard, and like it's motivated me quite a bit. But coming
thank
back to
you.
that
I
that
appreciate that.
confidence piece, oh, I appreciate it. Um, Coming back to that confidence piece, maybe let's go there. And when did YouTube start to become like a thing for you? And what made you have maybe confidence is the wrong word. What gave you the courage to put yourself out there in that way and show yourself in vulnerable, intimate, hardworking moments like that?
Yeah, well, thank you again. It means a lot. But I would say the YouTube real like I would say Waddy, again, my husband, coming from a marketing background, like he always emphasized the importance of marketing and like it always being a two-way street with sponsors. It's not just, okay, a sponsor is going to sponsor you. Great. You get shoes and support. It's like, well, what are you providing them? So he was always on top of like the two-way street with sponsors and how can we give back to them? How can we give them value? So early on, we would do pre-YouTube, just like we had the blog spots, we had the Vimeo, we had the like little clips he would do. We had Vine. Like again, this is all like some of the listeners probably don't even know what they were. So it's
Yeah.
like 2010 to 2017, 18. Like I guess Instagram was going by then, but he always understood that, which was huge just in my career as an athlete. But he started learning YouTube and editing and videoing videography in COVID. When COVID hit, we were here in Tucson with our really good friends and training partners, Paula Finley and Eric Lagerstrom. They have, for trail listeners in triathlon, they have a brand called That Triathlon Life, and they have their own YouTube channel. But Eric had been doing YouTube and film for much like years by then, and he helped teach Waddy how to edit primarily. And they just would geek out on all the cameras, the all that stuff. And so Waddy really dove into the editing side of things in COVID, I would say, and it became this like, okay, this is another avenue we can help give back to sponsors by doing YouTube. And I don't know that I don't know if I really ever digested like what we were doing. He would, in terms of like being like, okay, this is what we're going to do. You're going to film me training. Like he would just stick the camera in my face. I'd be on the trainer dying during a VO2 workout, just like tasting blood, like sucking in air. And he would just have the camera out. And so yeah, I don't know that it was this like active decision to allow it. It just became that's what he did. And I would be so thrashed from training and racing that I didn't really have much like he would just edit and put together videos and then show me and I would be like, "Oh, cool, okay." And put them up and they just people were drawn to them. I think people like to watch suffering or they can identify with it or be like you're saying like it can motivate and I think I saw that some of the response we got and it was like okay cool like it was positive feedback so I think that helped keep us going and keep kind of pushing that like what can we put out that people will relate to or enjoy or can help some others in some way or another.
I think it was just, and still is, just raw and real. It's very authentic. I think of my full-time job is as a run coach, and in my first couple years of coaching, I worked with a couple women who would tell me they didn't want to hydrate before they went out for a run because they were afraid of sweating. They didn't want to sweat. And I remember, like, my mind was blown. Like,
Wow.
"What?
Yeah.
This is what it is to be an athlete." And so I think just seeing, not only seeing what it really is to be an athlete, to work hard, to be invested, but also seeing a woman work hard and be invested is, there's a little bit more of that in triathlon, especially now, but I think we see less of that in running and in trails specifically. Again, I think now it's starting to catch on, but there's just less women. We have a lot of male YouTube content, and it's good, but we don't have as many examples of what it looks like for a woman to work hard, to be sweaty, to be exhausted, to like puddles of sweat all over the
Yeah.
place. And that's what it takes to get to the podium and the shiny, the results that everybody sees. So I think it's very cool, even if there was not that awareness when you started of what it was to other people or what it would become. He does a very good job of capturing the reality and the authenticity behind what goes into it. And I think it's just cool.
Thank you. And I
Um,
will.
This is an awkward transition. I don't want to skate over your triathlon career. It was enormous and impressive. And well, again, just like I said in the intro, you won very many Ironman, very many 70.3s. You were on the podium at Kona at World Champs. A very impressive triathlon career. And at some point, you came to a realization that you were ready to move on. Talk a little bit about how did you know that you wanted to move on, that it was time to move on? Like, how did you come to that decision?
Yeah, I think it was definitely a long drawn out process for me. And I think I try to draw on that now when I'm making decisions in terms of like maybe being a little more decisive. But at the same
Mm,
time, yeah, it wasn't an easy decision. I think I started losing a little bit of kind of, I don't know what the word is, not passion for triathlon, but kind of I had done the same thing um, for 10, 11 years at this point. This would have been just before COVID, I would say 2019, in terms of like, I wanted to try a couple of new things. Honestly had seen Western States, UTMB. I had watched Unbound. I follow a lot of other sports. So I'm a huge fan of all sports. And it started to become this like, oh, those look cool, um, in 2019. And I thought a big decision making process was like, how do you move on from what is your career? Or how do you make that transition? Or how do you like, I didn't want to stop doing triathlon, but I knew that something was shifting mentally of like, I don't know, not passion, but just I guess being a little burned out on doing the same thing every single year. I used to do basically the same schedule every single year, the same events,
mhm,
almost to a T. And so, and there were also, to be fair, some other things shifting in triathlon at the time. My entire focus had been Kona for a decade, and there were talks that it was going to move. Kona would no longer be in Kona. There was some other shifts in the pro racing in terms of this organization, the PTO, now called the T100. It was just things were shifting, and I was like, I felt just kind of not not good about it and not what I knew of the sport and loved about the sport. And so and then COVID hit. So that would have been end of 2019, and then we come into 2020, and I had thought maybe I would say this will be my last year focused on meaning all in on it, because every year I was all in on Kona. All I cared about was that
mhm,
second Saturday in October. And I would give one more year all in on it. And then in my mind, I was still going to race try, but I wanted to also incorporate in some other things, maybe trail running, gravel racing, new adventures. And then COVID hit, and it was like I was paused in this, like, I thought I had a direction I was going, and now what? And I'm sure my confusion at the state of the world is the same as everyone else's. I think everyone COVID hit everyone in a certain way, I'm sure, in terms of how you view
Mhm.
yourself, your career, your life, your what's important. And it was at this COVID was really weird for me, of this combo of like, I wanted to go all in one more time, like, and just
Mhm.
give Kona everything and be able to then maybe make a shift. But then at the same time, COVID hit, all the pools were closed. And for me, the swim was always the hardest for me. It was always a work in progress. And for anyone who swims or a swimmer knows, like, when you're out of the pool, even for like a day or two, like, it takes a week to get back into a rhythm of like the feel for the water. It's not just like you can pick up biking, okay, after a couple days off. Like, and I just felt like I was starting at ground zero. We were doing everything down here in Arizona to like stay ahead of the curve. We would go park our vans in Patagonia, Arizona, because there was a
Mm.
lake down there. And we're like, we're staying in the water. Like, we're still swimming, and nobody else can swim right now because everyone's on lockdown. All the pools are closed. Like, all of 2020 was this like attempt to just like stay ready, stay,
Mhm.
yeah, just like in case racing started. And I think that also contributed to maybe some, not burnout on it, but it was this waiting game, trying to stay fit. I was probably fitter in COVID than I ever was, because we could
Mhm.
ride and run so much. There were no taper breaks for races. So it was just this like progressive training all year.
And
um,
this outside stress of stay ready, right? Because we don't know what's happening with the world. We don't know when the races are gonna open, and this is your last shot, sort of as you had framed it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
was crazy, like, because they weren't canceling all the events at once, like, they would just cancel them one by one. So, okay, Ironman Oceanside was canceled. That's where everyone usually opens up their season. They cancel it a few weeks before, and we're like, "Okay, that's fine. We'll get ready for Chattanooga," which is in May. Then, like, so you get ready for that, that would be canceled. I'm like, "Okay, Iron Lake Ironman Lake Placid, that's for sure gonna go off. Let's get ready for an Ironman." So it was this like all year long, just yeah, exactly what you're saying, the stress of everything, just training, not really taking breaks. Like, I came up with all these different things. I hadn't, in triathlon, you don't run the same mileage as a runner. Like, I
Mhm.
think my average would be like 50 to 60 miles as a triathlete. And I was like, I'm going to run 100 miles a week for a month because that's what runners do. And so, like, again, I was training more than ever because I was like, had all these things I would set for myself. And this was when Wadi started up the YouTube. So we were doing films on it, just again, trying to give back to sponsors who I'm sure were as confused. Like, they didn't know what was going on. Are they still
Mhm.
paying athletes in this time when we're not racing? Just, yeah. So 2020 really shifted, I guess, everything for me, to be honest. And while 2020 was hard, 2021 was even worse, I would say, because then races started coming back, but they were only certain races. It was the races in states that were opening up, like Texas, Florida, largely races I would never go do because those weren't races that I enjoyed or suited me. Like, I always needed hilly bikes, hilly runs. These were like flat, hot courses. It was just
Mhm.
this weird year of, okay, now we're coming back from a year off. How can I give Kona one more go? Like, still not knowing for sure about events, because events still weren't fully on board at that point. Like, spring of 2021, maybe the summer, you could kind of count on it, but then it was still the social distancing. Like, they were doing the swim start super weird, like sending one person at a time, 10 feet apart. It was still just a weird time frame. And then I was like, okay, Kona, we're all in on Kona. Kona was supposedly going to happen, and they canceled Kona in 2021 as well, about 3 weeks out. So again, canceled. Yeah.
So I'll come
So
around to this is again fast forwarding maybe a little bit. 2022, you did have the opportunity to race and race in
yes.
Kona. Talk a
Yep.
little bit about that sort of final go, final experience, and where your head and maybe also your body were at by the time you had had all of this
Yeah.
last chance, when is it going to come sort of build up for 2 years longer than you had expected that to
Yes.
go.
Exactly. Yeah, it was just, I think, just a long, long process mentally, physically. I think I went into 2022 Kona like with that, okay, like we're gonna give it everything and this is it, no matter what. And I was so fit for Kona 2022 and we went over, I think, 10 or 12 days early and I think I caught something on the plane over. And so I don't know if it was COVID or not, but I ended up getting sick right before Kona. And it was this like devastating, like, I'm not dragging this on any longer. It's been 2 years of going, like, trying to kind of close this chapter. And as much as like this is not how I wanted it to end, I had a horrible Kona. It was just not great. But at the same time, it was this like, I just was ready for that deep breath of whatever that next thing was, or just giving it a break at that moment. So yeah, Kona 2022 was just a tough one. But then at the same time, I think having these other things I wanted to try and dive right into helped because we flew home from Kona like a day or two later. And then I went straight to, I think it was 2 weeks later, I went to Big Sugar, which is a gravel race. We had some friends doing it. It's one of the most popular ones. Flew out, rode that just to give it a go. And then the week after Big Sugar, I went to Javelina. This was 2022 and did my first trail race. So I think I knew those were the things I wanted to try. I think that helped me get over a disappointing Kona and just move on immediately into some of these these new adventures. Literally.
Literally, yeah. Do you feel like when you made that transition and came into gravel, into trail and ultra, do you feel like you had a plan and a direction that you already knew you wanted to go? Or do you feel like you sort of came in to fuck around and find out and you found out and got like, were you planning to have an entire second career, second professional career after Kona coming into these brand new, I hesitate to say that you had been doing these sports in other capacities, but
Right.
brand new sport. Was that part of the plan, or did you sort of just fall in and find out, and this is how things evolved on their own?
Yeah, no, I completely just fell in and I had no plans at all for how they have continued even this far, like 3 years later.
Yeah,
I wanted to try them. They looked fun. I honestly thought like it would give me kind of this breather to try these new things while I figured out what I would do post triathlon career in terms of what did that look like? Would I start coaching? Would I try to develop a youth program? Like all these other ideas I had, like I didn't see gravel and trail running as kind of a career extension by any means. Like I just thought they looked fun. I needed a break from the high performance side of triathlon. And I say that thinking, oh, the gravel looks great. Like you just ride dirt roads, like trail running, like you get to run in the mountains. Like little did I know they were literally their own high performance sport.
right.
At the same time, like I didn't know, but now I'm like, oh my gosh, we're back to triathlon, like performance focused training at
Yeah,
this
well,
point.
that's sort of why I ask the question. I think, if I'm looking purely at like the trail and ultra side, because that's where I'm most familiar, I watched you do Javelina and then like really draw on that experience and draw on the things that you didn't know and the things that you needed to figure out and really invest yourself into learning and figuring those things out and applying yourself. And spoiler alert for those who don't know, you came back the second year to the same race and you knocked it out of the park. So, like, suddenly, like you said, you are really all in again on a different thing. But at the
Exactly.
same time, I hear, as we opened this conversation, talking about having that transition of like, how do I want to give back? How do I want to? I have reached to this level for myself. how now can I give that back to other people or bring other people along with me? And you're sort of already in this limbo 4 or 5 years ago at this point. Um, what was that maybe like, what were some of your thoughts and feelings when you did start to notice that pattern in yourself of, like, coming back into that high performance mentality in a different sport, and also having those other things on your mind that you maybe wanted to do as well and give back as well?
Yeah, exactly what you're saying. It's been this weird point in my life and career of just I saw trying these new things as this kind of break, um, in terms of not break, like, because obviously you're still training and getting ready for long, crazy endurance events, but like this chance to maybe take a breather and figure out, okay, I was afforded, thanks to the support of all the people that helped me with my triathlon career, like just an incredible decade of professional racing and triathlon. Like how do I want to give back to that? Like I was given so much by so many people, and it was this thing of like, yeah, what will I do with that? And I saw kind of maybe that 2022 into 2023 would give me this breather to figure that out. But then I get into the trail running and the gravel cycling, and I'm as addicted as I was that first triathlon of, like you said, I did javelina and I was like, "Oh my god, if only I had done this differently, maybe it could have gone this much better or things would have turned out differently." And that's how it's been now with both the trail and gravel the last 3 years. So 2023, 24, and 25. I've now raced both, um, on the yeah, as a professional in those two sports now, and I guess for me, it became the same thing that triathlon was of I went back to the same races 3 years in a row. I went back to Black Canyon every February, Western States, javelina, and I found myself back in the same exact pattern of what I did in triathlon. And largely it's very high performance like focus because you go to an event, you learn that event, you once you've raced it, you know the course, you're like, I can do so much better. Like back on the calendar because I want to do better. And it's that mentality, but at the same time, like I left triathlon because I wanted kind of a different approach to both sport and life. Like I don't know. I know this we're like heading into that age discussion, but I don't know if which comes first. And this is what I struggle with. Like, did like because I'm getting older, that has changed my mindset where I'm like, I don't know how long I can do this. I want to try new things. I don't want to just lock into the same races year after year, like I did with triathlon, where the only focus was on winning or like doing as good as I could on that day. Like it was all about performance, all about results. Whereas now it's like it still is. This is where I think the hard part is. Like I still
Right.
want to win races. I still believe I can, but I also don't see it as the only important thing in my life or what I want to be giving back in terms of like I think at one point in my career, like when we were talking about the YouTube, like my goal was to inspire other women or just anyone, individuals, by working hard and showing, okay, if you work hard, like you put the work in, like good things can happen. Like come I'm showing you that. Like I don't come from a triathlon background or a swim, like, but you put the work in, good things can happen. And it's like inspiring that way. Now it's like and in my what I was thinking I was inspiring was that you could win races or it was about results, getting that performance. Whereas now I want to inspire and motivate, but it's not in the sense of like, if you work hard, you can win. Like my mindset has shifted of like, that's not necessarily the message always. It's like reaching women who are even scared to try or scared to start or scared to take that first step or change careers or take the scary steps, like because that's what I'm going through right now of like I don't have that singular focus of Kona every year and it was very easy to grasp onto and be focused for 12 months of the year towards one thing. Now it's like I want to yeah, try all these new things and it's scary and it's like it's a weird combo of where I'm at in terms of like mindset, performance driven, but also not, like adventure driven, trying new things, not being scared to. Um, yeah, sorry, that it's all over the map, but that's where I'm at literally mentally. So
All over the map. I really love that. I like it's not about winning, it's about the overcoming. And what a win is literally there's a podium and there's the first finisher to cross the line. But winning has so many other and deeper meanings for so many people because there are only a very select few who are the literal winners of a race, any given local to national to international level. But there's so much more depth to it for most people and the depth of the sport. Um,
to-
and I think too, this is going to sound really cliche. It is cliche, but that like it's not about the finish or the result at the end of it. It's about who you become to become the person who can get to that finish line and achieve that result. That's what the the story, the journey is about. And that can be every training cycle is that journey for you, for any given person. Yeah. And the
exactly.
sports that you've chosen are adventure driven. Like that is what trail and ultra is. That is what gravel is seeking adventure, seeking to see something, go somewhere that you couldn't go uh, if you weren't on your own 2 feet or human powered. Is that's what we do
Ex-
here.
Exactly. That's why I wanted to get into them, because I had stared at a white line on the road of a time trial bike for a decade. Like I've been running the same road back and forth on doing mile reps for 10, like 15 years. Like it was, these sports are like, you get to adventure, you get to see new things, you get to like have new experiences, go new places. Like you just said, go places you wouldn't be able to go otherwise unless on your own feet or two wheels. And so like embracing that, and similarly on the like the journey itself side, like it's become so important to me, like the experiences you share in those training blocks, like with friends. Like, yes, I'm still on the trainer doing super hard workouts, head down alone, but like what I remember after races is largely not the race itself. It's like the training block leading in and who I'm sharing
Hmm.
runs with, the day to day, who I'm sharing bike rides with, and those memories made. And that's what's become as important, if not more than, okay, does that training block lead me to a win? I don't know, but is it, is that what I'm still striving for? Yes, but it's not what is like as important on the day to day. Like the day to day is the life I'm living, because it's passing by so quick. Every day it's like I climb into bed, I'm like another day has passed. Like, and I don't know if that's the reflection that comes as you age, where you start to bring certain things into like what are most important to you, that lens of like, these are the things I want to spend my days doing, and it's time with friends, it's time with my family, time with my pups. Like that's what's important to me. And like inspiring others, bringing others along for the journey, more so than, again, that like very performance driven, like the only thing that matters is winning.
It's a broader focus. I don't even necessarily think it's age in terms of a literal number, but like we're talking about, it's emotional maturity and that process of experiencing and learning and broadening your view at any age. Um,
Yeah.
I think
I just
that
know I did not think that way when I was 25.
yeah.
I was like,
Right. But that's part of it, again, is like you've now reached a point of being very established in the way that you wanted to be when you were 25. And so now having sort of the freedom to be able to broaden your view, if that makes sense.
totally. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Um, I want to come around to talking about where you are now, what you're doing now, both in terms of work and passion and athletics. I think I outwardly started to see this shift maybe about a year ago. You mentioned Paula and Eric. Eric put out a film shortly it must have been like March or April of last year. And I'm forgetting the name of it off the top of my head. I'm very sorry, Eric, if you're listening. I'll tag
Yeah,
it in the show notes. It was exceptional. But he talked about your relationship and sort of sharing those experiences, and that was something that you really inspired him, is taking the people along the way and looking for experiences as opposed to results. And I've started sort of to see a shift from you at that point. And a lot of the content that you've put out has been focused on that story, who you're sharing it with, and the experiences you're having along the way to the bookmark of the big thing that you're chasing. So maybe elaborate a little bit on some of those projects that you're doing alongside, in tandem with your own training and athletic pursuits. You are also bringing other people along for the ride, telling other people's stories at the same time.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. No, thank you. Eric will be so happy to hear that about the film. His film was called Look for Things Where You Can Find Them, and it's
Thank
on
you.
YouTube. Yeah, but he just,
It's
I think he was at
incredible.
a, yeah, he's an incredible, yeah, filmmaker, video, yeah, whatever the term is, but it was, yeah, an honor to be a part of it. I was like, oh, wow, like, thank you. Yeah. Because he and I have been, ever since COVID, him, Paula, Wadi, and I, it's just, yeah, they've become such good friends, and to be a part of that was such an honor for sure. But he, I think, has gone through similar shift. Like, he was a pro triathlete. He was trying more in the ITU, the short course scene, trying to make the Olympics, and has kind of shifted in his career too. And it's kind of that similar, like, letting go of something that was such a big part of your life, and but taking that step and being scared to, and but what really does matter, all the things that we're talking about. But I think he captured in that film so wonderfully.
Hmm.
But I think to your, yeah, to your point, it became this like kind of shift in my own head of like, yeah, I guess portraying what I'm saying of in terms of like what really is important to me. And it is like the journey, not necessarily, and the people you share that journey with, not necessarily the training videos anymore. I guess in my mind too, it was partly like, I feel like we've been putting out training videos, like people have seen this, like how many more bike workouts can I like put out, and just felt like I was maybe being repetitive on the YouTube channel by doing more and more of those. And it was like, where can we go from here in terms of like what represents me now, and what I would like to get across. And I feel grateful to Hoka, who they supported me in a current video project we're working on. And that's largely, the first one has come out just like a month ago. But I'm currently working on this project of just um, kind of working with women heading into kind of different phases in their life, who they're trail runners largely, but they're so much more than just trail runners. But they have a trail running goal, whatever it is. Western States, their first 50K, 100, their first 100 miler, and it's like my goal, as I told Hoka, was I would like to give back in whatever way I can in terms of sharing lessons, experiences, things I've learned from 15 years in endurance sport to women who maybe, yeah, could use some mentorship or just help or any sort of tips, and share their journey of like, I'm a professional athlete. My journey is pretty straightforward to get to an event. All I lock in, I breathe, sleep, eat, train. It's so simple. And when you see what women who still have these big goals, but have so many other things going on in their lives, families, kids, jobs, like other things. For instance, the first episode we just put out, it's with who's now my really good friend, Jennifer George. She got into Western States and then found out she had breast cancer. And like, someone who still gets herself to Western States, going through chemo, going through treatment, like dealing with the stress of that. Like, I can't even imagine prepping for Western States and what she went through. And she still got to that start line and like was there. She ended up missing a cutoff at mile, I think 86. She was so, so close. But I mean, to me, and I hope to her, that was still a victory, just getting there, because she had to take her chemo treatments by pill in the race itself. Like, just next level of like, oh, I have a tough day training. Like, no, come on. So, anyways, to share some of the stories like that of other women who, the title of the series is called "The Courage to Try," and so it's highlighting stories of just, yeah, it's, no, was her lead, it was Jennifer's lead in ideal? No, but she still showed up every day. She still put training in. She still was there at the start line and still gave it a go, even though who knows what could have happened. And yeah, it's just, so sharing those stories. We have the second episode will come out soon. That one is on a young female who, her name's Brooke, who I remember so much of where she is now. She's in college. Just, yeah, a young female just getting into endurance sport. And I literally remember it like yesterday. So being able to kind of share stories now 20 plus years later to someone who I remember being 18, 19 at the time. So that'll be episode 2. And then we have 2 more following that as well. But
Mm.
just trying to share, yeah, other people's stories than my own. I think it's, and yeah, for no other reason than like, yeah, like they wouldn't have that platform. And I think their messages and what they're doing and how they can inspire others. Like, I want to give voice to that because it's so inspiring to me. Like, I still, when I'm struggling, think of Jennifer. Like, oh, you want to throw in the towel today because you're tired? Like, no, she didn't. She kept going.
Yes. I love that. The first episode was excellent. That was when I reached out to you about doing this interview was, I want to hear about this project, and I think you hit the nail on the head there. Like, I wondered, because that particular story was Western States this past year. In tandem, you were racing Western States as well. Did not have the day that you were hoping to have out there, and I wondered if being a part of her story and a part of her adventure maybe changed your experience or changed the way you felt about your own day when you had the reflection of her day so fresh and tandem with your own.
Yeah, it 100% changed it. Like, I was gutted. I took a fall early on in the race and strained my calf, and it was one of those, like, partly dropping out was so difficult because I thought to myself, Jennifer is still going. Like, you can walk on this strained calf, but in the end, I could barely take a step. So
Mhm.
it was kind of, I had to make that call myself, but my focus, while yeah, I was gutted to drop, it immediately shifted to Jennifer. The rest of the day, we were tracking her. I was calling in. I was largely in bed with my leg up, but Waddy was out there tracking her through the night, all morning. Like, just, yeah, that became the focus because I was so invested for her. Like, I wanted her to get to that track so bad, and like just following her, like that became my day, and that's what I'll remember from Western States, and not that I had a tough day. It, like, that meant nothing. Like, not, it meant nothing, but it was just, yeah, minuscule compared
It was
to,
deeper. Yeah,
yes, exactly. So
I love that.
having, sharing these journeys with these women have become, yeah, it's so much deeper than my own race and race result on the day. So it's been super rewarding. And I posted this before I shared the first one, like, they have given me so much more than meaning and just understanding of life and what's important than tips I could have possibly given them of like, okay, Jennifer, make sure you're hydrating enough. Like, my tips mean nothing. Like, they have given me so much more. So it's, yeah, a project, yeah, we're going to continue, and it's just been really, really rewarding in that sense.
I love this, and I love that there's more coming. I really appreciate the impact that you are receiving through this project is coming out, and I think that other people are receiving that impact as well through what you're sharing and through what you're putting out.
Thank
Um,
you.
One of the other things I appreciate is you starting to talk a little bit in terms of talking about training videos and that feeling redundant to you at some point. You're starting to maybe make a little bit of shift of what you're doing there and sharing of yourself and the way that you are training and how you're sort of changing the way that you do things as you are an athlete in your 40s. And I think that that is very cool too. I think there are a lot of athletes talking about how things change, and again, you are showing it, and I think that that is inspirational, helpful, impactful. And so I wanted to go there next. Is sort of what is changing for yourself as an athlete, and what kind of things, what kind of adventures and experiences are you pursuing and chasing for the year ahead, for the future that you see from this point?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was kind of another shift we've made of just kind of in terms of the YouTube and what I'm putting out. And I guess, like we chatted earlier, the kind of being all over the place right now of like, where am I? Am I like still putting out bike trainer videos where I'm hitting 6 by 6 minute at threshold? And like, it did start to feel redundant to me, but I also was scared to maybe shift what I was putting out because I just had this image of myself of this like, okay, train hard, work hard, go for the win. And that was what my audience was used to seeing versus like, yeah, I still do that. I just did 6 by 6 2 days ago, like on my bike. But like my training has shifted as I've gotten older. And I think not my audience has shifted, but what I was scared to put out in terms of like, yeah, I do need to approach things differently now. Um, the feedback we got from, we've put out 2 episodes now of just like, things are different in terms of approach, of recovery, of um, how I'm looking at seasons and training and all of the aspects that go into it. And I feel so lucky that the response has been amazing of like, yeah, this is the majority of people go through the same thing as well in terms of like how you make it all work or come together. And um so yeah, sorry, that was kind of broad, but it's like, I guess targeting like, yeah, I don't recover as quick anymore. So maybe I'm not doing as many intense sessions per week. I spread them out more. I take one extra lighter day before the next hard day. I guess wanting to target some of those and share those because I think people can relate who are closer to my age versus what I felt like when we first started doing YouTube. My audience was maybe like 25 to 35-year-olds who were just like, yeah, like just a different audience. And now I have like out, yeah, feedback from women like, yes, I'm experiencing the same thing. So it's being not scared to talk about that because I think when I first turned 40, I wanted to like hide it or like just not talk, not hide it, but just not talk about it, not think about it, not like,
Mhm.
it was kind of this weird shift. And I don't know why 40 is the age or like how that got there. Or even now in headlines in the news, it's like 41-year-old Lindsey Vaughn. And it's like, why does it have to say that? Like, it's Lindsey
Yes.
Vaughn. She's one of the greatest of all time. Or like Philip Rivers, like 44 QB brought back in. Like, it's like, yeah, I think it's a cool fact of like that's part of the story, but maybe it's just where I am those are the headlines. Like, why is it in the
Yeah.
headline? I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. No, I feel it. And I think it creates this sense of I don't know if you felt this way, but like approaching 40 and feeling this like pressure and panic that, well, I have to achieve this, and this before 40. Like by the time I'm 39, I need to do this because like everything's going to fall apart when I turn 40. And
Yes.
it doesn't.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, like you don't fall apart on your birthday. Things do gradually shift a little bit, and it's important to be attentive to the way that things are changing. But life doesn't stop. Like, you are
Yeah,
still a badass athlete. You are still strong and capable, and all of that history that you have invested still there. It didn't disappear when you hit 40. And I think that that messaging does like create a sort of panic, maybe, that we're wasting time in our 30s putting all of this stress on what you have to achieve before you hit the explosion. And the explosion never comes. And yeah,
exactly.
and
No, it's so true. So true. Yeah, it's
yeah,
insane. I was like but it is in your head, and then it becomes this like, how many years do I have left? Like, is it I'm certainly on the downfall now. Like, it's just this like messaging when it's not true at all. Like, I hit some of my best power numbers on the bike this last year, and it's
mm,
like, yeah, I've talked to other friends who are all our same age, and they're hitting like best splits, best times, PRs. Like, so how that narrative got out, I don't know. But now it's become like not a mission to shift that, but just show, like you're
show
saying,
it.
like
Hmm.
40 isn't a cutoff. Like, I don't know what is. Like, there shouldn't be. Like, certainly things shift, and we can acknowledge that. And but as a human, like, you can still find personal best. You can still have great results. You can still like do incredible things. There's no just like sudden cutoff.
Right,
So I think
right.
getting that messaging out and just sharing that, yeah, don't be afraid to go all in on something still. Like, don't let someone tell you just because you're a certain age you can't, or that it's not, oh, well, that's not possible. Like, you're too old. Like, no, no one will know that but you, and you won't know it unless you try. So make sure you try. Is kind of
I
like the
love that.
new messaging.
I'm gonna pull that out. That might be the title of our podcast.
Oh,
You
perfect.
won't
Okay.
know unless you try, so you better try. I love
Yeah.
that. I love it. Okay, Heather, let's come around to what you have coming up. What are you putting yourself in to try this year?
Yeah, I've got a big year coming up. Yeah, kind of a mix of old things and new things. But I would say, um, yeah, I would say the biggest new event I will give a go this year is Cocodona. So I wasn't sure if I could keep it on the calendar. A couple things came up with some other conflicts. So many races are that same weekend, but yeah, I'm committed. So Cocodona will be my first ever ultra distance, if you will, 200 and I think 56 miles of running.
Mhm.
So I'm super excited. I've followed the race the last whatever 3-4 years. Like, never did I think I could be drawn to a 4-day live coverage feed of like a single spot. But I love it. I love following it. I think the women's field this year is going to be crazy, and I just want to be a part of that. I want to be there and see if I can even do it. It's not anything beyond literally, I don't know if I can do this. And it's that curiosity of, I want to see. It
I love
intrigues
that.
me.
I love
So
that.
that I would say is the first half big one. I'm going to do a couple events leading in. I'll be at Black Canyon just because we're so close, but decided not to. February is so tough. Like, fitness is coming and it's really building great, but I think with just like tapering and then, yeah, I'm just not ready this year for
Mhm.
that. And I'm also not chasing a golden ticket for Western States. So I'll be there supporting everyone, but no Black Canyon this year. I'm thinking of starting at Big Alta in March,
Mm. The
just with
100K or the 50K?
I think the 50K. And then I'm going to go to Desert Rats, 100K, which is in April. That'll be my last like longish run for Cocodona. And that ideally I can get qualified for UTMB there because I really want to give UTMB another go. I had a tough go this last August, caught up in the snowstorm, really wasn't prepared, like the cold wet, just I want to give that one another go. And I'm qualified for CCC, but not the full loop. So if I can qualify at the 100K at Desert Rats, you can upgrade one category to the 100 miler. So
Hmm.
ideally, I can do that at Desert Rats. If not, I'll go to CCC. But Desert Rats, Cocodona, and then I will go back to Unbound XL. And then the big bike undertaking this summer is I'm going to go after the Tour Divide, which for those who don't know, it's basically for trail runners like the biking equivalent to the Continental Divide. So it runs from Banff, Canada down to Mexico. I think it's
Wow.
just under 3,000 miles. I think, yeah, it's the women's record is 15 days.
Okay.
So yeah,
Is
ultra.
this self-supported, supported, self-supported, unsupported? What does that look like?
So the biking FKT stuff is, I think, weird. I feel comfortable saying that. Like, I think running has it sorted out where you can do supported or yeah, unsupported, supported, self-supported. The biking, they don't. It's literally like you can't have anything, no support whatsoever, including like people out following or cameras on course, even if you don't even know they're there or there's no contact. So for instance, Lael Wilcox got, I think, the Tour Divide record a few years ago. It's been broken since, but a few years ago, but they didn't count it because her wife was out there, even though she didn't help her, there was no contact. They didn't give her the record, even though in my mind, Lael had it, despite Rue being out there. So I think Lachlan Morton did the same thing on the men's side 2 years ago. He has a great video out on the Tour Divide that his brother did. His brother followed him, but it didn't count the record necessarily. So I am approaching it with that same thing. What we're going to do a film on it, cover it. I will receive no help whatsoever, like flats, mechanicals, anything. It's all on me, but Waddy will technically be out there hiding in the bushes, filming. So I know it won't officially count, but we want to share the journey, share the lessons in the training leading up. I've never undertaken anything like this. And just like being a newbie, like learning all the things as well in the lead up of like, okay, all the things. So sharing that journey in case there are people out there looking to bike pack or want to do a longer bike pack adventure. What does that look like? What gear do you need? So sharing all the aspects that I think is important
I love
versus
that.
saying like, okay, I want to just go strictly for the FKT. So to your question, it is unsupported, but because
Tethered. Yeah.
yeah, so that will be kind of the big June. I'll do it sometime in June. They have a grand depart. I think it's mid June, like June 12th, but I don't know yet that I'll actually do that. You can go for it anytime. I might watch for a better weather window. In case, yeah, if it's just horrible weather, I won't set out then.
I
So
love that. Doing it in a way that is meaningful to you, that you are learning and investing yourself in that unsupported fashion. But like you said, sharing it and sharing that story is an important piece of it for you. And so, sort of, I don't know if I don't care is the right way to say it, but letting go of the rules to do it the way that is important to you to do it. And I like that. I really like that.
thank you. Yeah.
Um, Heather, if I'm not careful, I'm going to keep you here for 2 more hours. So,
Oh no.
and I could easily, maybe we'll hang out some more at Black Canyon, but let's talk about, or let's bring us to bring our conversation to a close. The last question I always ask on the podcast, and I'm interested to hear your answer, is if you could give your 20-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
I know this is such a tricky one for me because like I think back to when I was 20 and similar to now, I feel like I was all over the place. Like I was still playing hockey, I was in college, but just yeah, just I want to say to myself like sorry, this that was a bad start to this, but like you had sent me this question earlier, and I was literally nervous trying to think of what I would say. And I couldn't think of anything I would say to myself because it would not lead me to where I am now. And so all of the
Mm,
lessons that I've learned from being 20, being all over the place, not making the Olympic hockey team, led me to then be so focused on triathlon and to the career that I had there. To then like it's just led me step by step to where I am now. And I'm so grateful for that journey. I think to my 20-year-old self or to any 20-year-old, the two things I came up with were to stay curious, like things that intrigue you and you want to try, like try them. Like don't be scared to try something new or be drawn to where maybe you're being drawn. And along that same note, the message of like trust your instinct or trust your gut. Like I think there have been times in my journey where things have either felt right or wrong, or you feel like you're fighting yourself or feel like you're fighting the path that you're kind of on. And usually I have found that like you're right. Your instinct is right. If something feels off or what you're pursuing doesn't feel right to you, or you're not fully in on it, or you're not feeling it, then there's a reason. Like, trust that and explore it and be like, okay, you're right. Like, for instance, leaving triathlon, like, I didn't feel it anymore. I was kind of forcing it, and I knew it wasn't there anymore, but I was just scared to take that next step. Or even down to like race choices feeling off, like just like putting a race on the calendar, but it just doesn't, you're not drawn to it necessarily. You're not like fully in on it. Like maybe that it shouldn't be there then. Like just trust that gut feeling you have on things more than maybe my 20-year-old self did.
mhm. I love
Yeah.
that. All of that. Thank you. Heather, really enjoyed this conversation. I really appreciate you sharing so openly of yourself, not just here, but always. You are very authentic and very open, and also make yourself very available. I think I see you all the time. Not only have we had several interviews at this point, but you are out there as a ambassador of this sport, of cycling, of like everything that you do. And it really adds a lot of value. You add a lot of value, and sharing your experiences and your stories is meaningful. So thank you. You're a big inspiration to me, and I'm excited to share this story with everybody who listens.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Lauren. Honestly, thank you.